Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, a novel automated and simultaneous protein antibody high throughput purification platform, AmMag, and its reusable mag beads. I'm Susie Valdez of LabRoots and I will be your moderator for today's event. Today's educational web seminar is presented by LabRoots and brought to you by GenScript. To learn more, visit genscript.com. Now, we encourage you to participate in today by submitting any questions you might have during the presentation. To do so, simply type them into the Ask a Question box and click Send. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation. You may also submit any technical issues here as well if you have any trouble seeing or hearing the presentation. This presentation is educational and thus offers continuing education credits. Please follow the process to obtain those credits by clicking on the Continuing Education Credits window. I'd now like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Weilin Liu, a Technical and Sales Account Manager at GenScript. Weilin, welcome. You may now begin your presentation.
Everyone, I'm Weilin, GenScript EU Account Manager in charge of AmMag SA Plus technical support and sales. It's my good pleasure to give you guys talk on our AmMag SA Plus and its magnetic system to give you guys impression on this automated and high throughput protein and antibody purification platform. My presentation consists of several parts. The first part I'll be talking about current in use protein purification platforms. In the second part, I'll be focusing on our AmMag SA platform and its magnetic beads. And I'll also talk about our solutions to reduce cell culture volume. At the very end, I will summarize my talk. So here I want to give you a very brief impression on current in use protein platforms in the current market. From a simple gravity column, that's what you can see on the left first photo. You load one sample each time, you just simply wait. It's low cost, but however, it's low throughput and low efficient, and of course, time consuming. And the second photo you can see is probably the one that you have seen in some labs. It's based on chromatographic column purification system. The column is pre-packed, but however, you still need to prepare your samples to do centrifugation and filtration. And the throughput capacity is medium. You can process maximum 10 samples in 8 hours. So, and the price is quite expensive still. So when you talk about those robotic and automated systems as shown in the photo 3 and the photo 4, you could see that they have a good throughput capacity. But however, when you look at automated system 1, I call it system 1, you could see that the throughput is still medium. It's about 60 samples per 6 hours. And of course, you still need to prepare your samples, and the cost is way higher. It's 200K. And when I talk about the last one, System 2, it has better, higher throughput capacity, but however, you can only process samples with small volumes, ranging from several hundred microliter to few mils. So in order to fill this technical gap and make a better and more efficient protein purification platform, we, GenScript, has developed a magnetic bead-based purification system in collaboration with AmMag to further improve the purification efficiency and to achieve automation and optimize purification. So this figure basically shows how magnetic bead purification works. It's pretty straightforward. You put your beads in culture with your cell culture medium, and after a certain period, you get a magnetic source close to the magnetic beads, and beads get absorbed together with your protein of interest. You pour the medium out, then you basically get your protein and antibodies. So this process is very straightforward. It doesn't require centrifugation, and no filtration is needed, and of course, it's low cost in instrumentation, and no column assembly is required. And more importantly, its automation on this process is pretty feasible to achieve a high throughput. So in order to achieve automation and higher throughput, we have developed this AmMag SA Plus system. That's what you can see on the right upper corner photo. This is how this apparatus looks like. So the main features of this AmMag SA Plus system is it's magnetic bead-based purification apparatus, and it has complete automation process ranging from washing to elution to stripping and also cleaning. It has very short purification duration, about 40 to 50 minutes. You finish one complete run, and it saves your labor and time. And additionally, as I just mentioned, no certification and filtration is needed. You can customize you can save up to 50 customized protocols. And additionally, it's a closed system. So basically, it can minimize endotoxin contamination and pollution. So perhaps you might have more time for coffee, literature discussion, and paper writing. So when you talk about the throughput capacity, this apparatus can process 12 samples at a time, and each sample's volume can range from 5 to 50 ml. And it can even go beyond with those tools provided by GenScript by us. And it can purify protein and antibody up to 80 milligrams, and the minimum elution volume is 0.4 ml, or in other words, 400 microliters. So we humankind always make mistakes, especially when you process with many samples. You might forget, lost your track, or swap your samples. But if you have such machine, a good one and well-programmed one, so the machine doesn't make a mistake. So this is the moment that our AmMag SA Plus kicks in for high throughput experiments. And of course, our interface is quite user-friendly. It's based on a touch screen. So basically, you can adjust parameters, experiment by simply use your finger to push the touch button. So it's pretty intuitive, a visual interface, as you can see on the picture on the right-hand side. So you can flexibly change your programs by setting selection of your proteins, your samples, by selection the spot where your sample is, and you can even change, let's say, cycle number and the buffer volume by simply touch the touch screen. So this system also gives you a total buffer usage notification to make sure you have enough buffer in each bottle. It also reminds you the remaining time of each experiment. And this one has a USB port as well for software update and the protocol transfer. As I just mentioned, it can save up to 50 protocols. So back to this picture on your right-hand side. So you can see, you can choose fields basically to fill all the loops and all the tubes by the appropriate amount of buffers. So basically for washing purpose and also to wash the inner loop system in order to avoid the system of blow airs instead of a solution. And you could also choose UV to do UV sterilization before and after each of your experiments to get a clean system. So when you click processing, you enter this work interface. So what you can see on the left-hand side is your sample selection panel where you can choose A1, A2, or from B1 to B2. In total, 12 samples. And moreover, you can also specifically point out one spot or two spots where your samples are loaded. For instance, if you only have two samples, you can choose A1 or A4 or A1 or A2. And the panel below is the place where you can adjust your buffer and the port connection. So basically, you can freely choose and swap certain buffer with a corresponding port. For instance, you can switch buffer 1 to port 2 or elution buffer 1 to port 5. And moreover, you can also change your cycle numbers. So basically, this interface gives you quite freedom and flexibility to choose different connection between port and your buffer solutions. On the right-hand side, what you can see is more experimental details, such as magnetic bead volume and elution wash buffer volumes. And there, at the panel below, you can even give each, let's say, specific number for each spot. When you process to stripping, so basically you clean up your magnetic beads, you end up in a quite similar interface. So there you can choose your samples, choose your sample experimental detail information, and of course you can adjust your buffer and the port connection. But here I want to emphasize is that for the sodium hydroxide, the port 7 is specifically designed, let's say, or dedicated for this sodium hydroxide connection. You can't change it. Okay, so in comparison with the traditional resin-based purification from incubation, centrifugation, filtration, column packing, sample loading, washing, elution, and regeneration, and the manual step you need to do when you work with AmMag SA Plus system is simply incubation, and then load your samples in. Wait for about 45 to 50 minutes, then you get your 12 samples purified. So again, it saves your time, labor, and makes no mistake. And this slide basically shows the simple layout of AmMag SA Plus workstation. So what you can see on the left-hand side is AmMag station. I call it workstation. On the right-hand side, you see the bottles for buffers and its connection towards AmMag SA Plus system. And of course, you need a waste bin connection, of course. So the picture on the right-hand side shows the layout of the port connection. As I mentioned previously, AmMag SA Plus system provides 8 port connection. Basically, port 1 to 5 is for washing and elution buffer for your beads, for your sample, for your nozzle, etc., etc. So based on your needs, this gives you a 5-port selection to allow you a quite freedom in buffer and elution washing buffer selection. And the cleaning port, for the cleaning port, you can use either 0.05 molar hydrochloric acid during processing step, or you can choose 20% ethanol when you do bead stripping. And for the sodium hydroxide, you could either choose 0.1 molar for antibodies or 1 molar for regular protein purification. And the port 8 is designed for waste collection. So all those compartments together form a closed system. So to minimize the pollution and contamination of biomaterial or bio-waste and endotoxins. So here's a link which can give you more, let's say, vivid impression on how the system works. So here I want to use a very short demonstration video to give you guys more vivid impression on how AmMag SA Plus system works. So here is our AmMag SA Plus system, loading magnetic beads in cell culture for a certain period of incubation in order to capture the protein of interest. So pour the samples into the 50 ml tube. Now move to the station. Switch on AmMag SA Plus system, send your orders by simply touching the screen. Rack out, put your samples in, rack in. Get started. So you see the nozzle is washing the beads. The beads are very well suspended. The magnetic bar out, beads get absorbed instantaneously. The nozzle is removing washing buffer. And nozzles do the same for the next 6 samples. Now they are moving back to the reservoir for washing and getting new buffer. Now it's removing and pumping elution buffers in. See, the magnetic beads are very well suspended. And it's doing the same for the 6 samples, and beads are well suspended. Magnetic bar out, beads get absorbed instantaneously. So the only thing you need to do is to remove elution buffer containing your protein of interest. And those small links you can see below actually is more detailed video instruction divided by experimental steps. For instance, one give you introduction, one give you, let's say, how to prepare magnetic beads, etc., etc. So if you're interested, please go and have a watch to get more impression on that. Okay, so basically to kind of summarize our AmMag Plus features, so this apparatus system can process 12 samples at a time, and the minimum elution volume is 0.4 mil, and it gives you 5 different kinds of buffer choice, and for each cycle, for each experiment, it takes about 45 to 48 minutes. And the magnetic beads volume can range from 0.1 to 2 mil settled magnetic beads. And the AmMag Plus also has USB port, basically for updating software and data transfer. The reagent channels you can use is 7. And the channels and the programs are interchangeable and customized. It can save up to 50 protocols. So here I want to talk about another player in this system, which is magnetic beads. And we, GenScript, produce a variety of magnetic beads for protein and also for antibody purification. That's the table you can see here. We produce protein A beads, G beads. We also combine them together for antibody purification. And more importantly, I want to highlight the last one, which is our specially designed AmMag Protein A magnetic beads. It has a very high bonding capacity, 40 milligram per mil. Actually, it can go up to 80 milligram per mil. It's alkaline tolerant. It means that it can be washed by sodium hydroxide so that it can be reused up to 30 to 40 times. And of course, we provide the bulk size pricing is available for all our magnetic beads. To further support what I just mentioned to show our AmMag Protein A bead capacity. So here are more experimental data. I will firstly start with a quick response towards magnetic field. So in comparison with a supplier, you can see at time 0, nothing happened. But after 6 seconds, when the magnetic field applied, you could see our AmMag beads got absorbed very well at the bottom, whereas another supplier's beads are still kind of suspending in solution. So it means that our beads react to magnetic fields very quickly. And also, I believe our bonding capacity in comparison with our other competitor is pretty comparable and even actually high in most cases. That's what you can see on the left bottom corner figure. So one move to the alkaline resistance data, you could see our AmMag Protein A beads is quite, so it doesn't show obvious decrease in bonding capacity even after 40 cycles. And then concerning about the protein A leakage, again, what you can see is that after multiple times of reuse, our protein A beads shows very low and a minimum protein A leakage. And when you talk about antibody recovery rate in comparison with the chromatographic system, what you can see is that our AmMag system is quite comparable with that system. So green represents our AmMag device, blue represents a chromatographic system. So you could see that in quite of this analysis, our result is comparable with chromatographic system. And again, antibody purification rate when comparing with the automated liquid handler, what you can see is that AmMag SA system also shows competitive and comparable results represented by this upper orange curve when you compare with this lower blue curve, which is ALH, automated liquid handler. It's quite comparable and competitive. So, of course, purity and endotoxin is another major concern. And when you compare our AmMag system with a resin-based purification in the table, you can see here the purity and endotoxin level is quite comparable. So the upper two are 2 independent experiments on our AmMag SA Plus system showing 97.61% and 97.82% purity purity in comparison with 98.1. And the endotoxin concentration is extremely low, comparable with the resin-based purification method. Of course, we also produce magnetic beads for tech protein purification, including nickel-charged beads, glutathione beads, striptavadine beads, and recently we launched our new product for DYK, DDK tag purification, or aka flag tag. And here I want to highlight once again the second one, our AmMag nichromagnetic bead, specially designed with binding capacity of 10 milligram per mil when using 6 times his tag proteins, and more importantly, it's EDTA resistant and sodium hydroxide washable. So it can be used up to 100 times, even up to 200 times for your experiment, but only when there's no strong chelator present. When there's very strong chelator, you can only use it for 5 to 6 times. So here is the figure basically to show our AmMag nichrocharge beads performance, reusability, and durability. You could see that after 200 cycles, its bonding capacity doesn't show obvious decrease. Actually, it's quite stable. So indicating it's a quite durable nicro bead for your experiment. So here, this is the table showing a comparison with our specially designed AmMag nichromagnetic beads and our regular nickel charged beads. For the regular one, it has a good bonding capacity, 40 milligram per mil. I'm talking about the right-hand side, and but it can only use for 4 or 5 times and cannot be washed by sodium hydroxide. Actually, we only recommend to reuse those beads for the same type of protein. Or in other words, you cannot use this, let's say, a purified nicro bead for protein B to avoid cross-contamination. Whereas our AmMag nichromagnetic beads, a special design, the left-hand panel has 10 milligram per mil bonding capacity, but however, it's very suitable for low expression protein purification, and more importantly, it's chelator resistance. It's compatible with 100 millimole EDTA and 20 millimole DTT. It can be reused over 100 times, but when there's very strong chelator there, it can only use for 5 to 6 times. So I mentioned that in my previous slide as well. And so when you work with the bigger cultures, let's say ranging from several hundred mils to 1 liter, you can use our well-designed AmMag tools to reduce cell culture volume. So namely, I'm talking about AmMag magnetic wand and AmMag magnetic block. And magnetic wand consists of 2 parts. One is a steel sleeve. Another one is a rod, a magnetic rod that you can put inside, or magnetic wand you can put inside the sleeve. The handling is pretty simple and straightforward. So basically, combine these two together, put in your cell culture or fermentation, and beads get absorbed. Remove them together to an appropriate container. Slowly remove this magnetic wand, and then the beads fall naturally. And the magnetic block, the right-hand side one, actually works in more straightforward way. You just simply stick this magnetic bar at the bottom of in your bottle or flask, and the magnetic beads get absorbed instantaneously. You pour the culture medium, so what remains is beads together with your protein of interest. So basically, our accessory tools are pretty with high diversity, high magnetic strength, and user-friendly. And of course, we also provide other accessories, as you can see in this picture, especially those 2 yellow magnetic racks used for 50 mil and 50 mil to sample, let's say, a process, for manual process. It can help on that. So basically, to summarize my talk, AmMag SA Plus system can shorten your experimental time considerably and can save your labor and the cost. Not only the experimental material cost, but also the time you spend on each purification. And it can process 12 samples at a time in 45 to 48 minutes. And more importantly, it's an open system. It means that there's no proprietary buffers or consumables bound to it. You don't need to buy from us. And we provide a wide variety of magnetic beads for antibody and tag protein purification. We also have our optimized protocol for AmMag and the magnetic bead system. And moreover, as I just mentioned, that we have a specially designed AmMag magnetic beads, including protein A beads, which are alkaline tolerant, washable by sodium hydroxide, 0.1 molar, and it can be reused up to 40 times with very high bonding capacity, 40 milligrams per ml. And we also have our AmMag nickel charged beads, which are also alkaline, but also chelator resistant. It can be washed with 1 molar sodium hydroxide and can be reused up to 100 times. And last but not least, we also provide a variety of available tools, as I just mentioned, to reduce cell culture volume of your samples from 1 liter or several hundred mils to 50 mils. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time and your interest in our AmMag SA Plus purification system. So here you can see my contact information. So if you're interested, please feel free to send me a message. And I really appreciate your time. And thank you very much. I'm expecting your suggestions and questions.
And thank you so much, Weilin, for that informative presentation. We will now start the live Q&A portion of the webinar. And if you have any questions you'd like to ask, please do so now. Just click on that Ask a Question box located on the far left of your screen, and we'll answer as many questions as we have time for. So let's get started. It looks like we already have some great questions coming in. Weilin, how do these beads compare with Dyna beads?
Well, I don't want to really go into details, and we have a detailed comparison with between our products and with this Dyna bead. So let's say if this audience really need such detailed information, I can email the table, let's say a really detailed comparison with you. But I just mentioned that I highlighted the feature of our beads in terms of the high bonding capacity. So this is pretty competitive if you compare with the other bead provider. And another thing I want to highlight is reusability, especially when I talk about protein A beads and AmMag nickel beads. So their reusability can reach to, let's say, if you talk about protein A, like 40 or 50 times, and AmMag nickel beads, actually you can use it more than 100 times. So basically what I want to say is that in comparison with other beads in the market, our beads show very good bonding capacity and even better than most of the other providers. And also our beads can be reused for many times. Let's say if you, let's say, calculate the cost in a per use manner, so basically if you divide its actual price with its reusability, and actually the price is way lower than other providers. So that's the main advantages of our beads. And another point I want to mention is that we even have a let's say optimized purification protocol based on our beads and AmMag system. So basically what I want to say is that our beads are good quality, and the price-wise speaking is very competitive, especially when you take reusability into account. And last but not least, we have optimized the protocol to support our products, Mag beads and AmMag Plus system.
Thank you so much, Weilin. And do you have an example where AmMag beads were applied to volumes greater than 1L to 10L samples?
Well, actually, we recommend our customers to only purify the samples range from several mils to 1 liter. So of course, you can try to process more liters, but it means that you have to split your samples anyhow. So in that way, you might lose your throughput capacity. I don't have a real example, but I can dig into that to ask our current users to see whether they use it to purify, let's say, several liters. But let's say, from my point of view, we only recommend our customers to work on several hundred mils up to 1 liter, together with our magnetic wand and the magnetic block. But related to actually the one of those questions asking whether you have a higher throughput capacity version will be available soon. Actually, it's relevant to this culture volume question. And also, actually, I want to answer these two questions together. And yes, indeed. So we are currently developing two newer versions. One is higher throughput with 24 samples instead of 12. So basically to double the throughput capacity. And moreover, we are also developing a 2 liter version. So basically to handle a bigger cell culture. And the expecting days, we have a prototype available in our R&D, and for the official or projected launching days, I think it will be the Q4 of this year and the beginning of next year, I think. Because we also need to take a COVID situation into account. Things are kind of going a bit slow. Yep.
Thank you so much, Weilin. And is it surprising to see? I'm sorry. The next audience member wants to say, it is surprising to see that your system outperforms an ALH. Can you provide a case study for us?
Yeah, sure. So for a specific detailed case study, I can ask our product specialist to contact with this audience, Deepak. I really appreciate your multiple question, by the way. And so as I shown in my presentation, there's a figure with a multiple comparison. So each dot on x-axis is one experiment. So you could see that our AmMag is consistently comparable and competitive with liquid handler. So so in my opinion, I mean, in my point of view, it's not really surprised to see that because we have sufficient data to support our conclusion. But of course, I will send you a detailed study. If I think I will have your email address at the end of this meeting. I will contact you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, is there any plan to automate the collection of elution buffer rather than have the user collect it?
I hope so, but currently with this current version, you have to do it manually to collect elution buffer containing your protein of interest. But definitely, this is really valid point. We will for sure take into account when we do R&D, and to further improve, or let's say to further expand our automation. So maybe we can do that in next version. But definitely, that's a good point. I mean, the elution buffer collection in automatic way, for sure. That's a valid point to take into consideration. But at this moment, no, you do it manually.
Thank you so much. And I just want to thank our audience for these great questions coming in. We have time for a few more. Do you currently have any promotions running?
As far as I know, at this moment, officially not, but we organize a promotion on kind of regular basis quite frequently. And also we do promotion at different, let's say, locations because we are an international bio company, and we do promotion in America and also Asia Pacific, and also we do promotion in Europe. And so for instance, before this Christmas, we have a 30% discount promotion with provided to AmMag and its relevant products. And I'm pretty sure that in the coming future, we will have a, let's say, to implement more promotion on this new product on AmMag SA Plus system and its magnetic bead, for sure. And you can see the update on our website. And if you are our customers ready, I think you will also receive our reminder, for sure.
Thank you so much. And we have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Weilin, is it best to add the beads overnight to your culture?
Depends. Really depends your experiment. Let's say if your cells produce a lot of proteins, in that case, you don't need to let's say, culture your beads with culture overnight. Only a short period of time should be sufficient. But let's say, if you work with low secreted protein, low concentration, prolonging incubation is the way to compensate on the yield. So in that case, you do, let's say, or we do overnight culture. It's necessary in order to increase the yield. And concerning about overnight culture, basically you add your beads into your cell culture, you add into, let's say, the main concern is that whether it would cause contamination. Actually, we have also optimized the protocol for bead sterilization. So you can prepare your beads and sterilize your beads by using our protocol, and then calculate specific amount of beads you need and put it into a cell culture and do overnight incubation. So in this way, you avoid contamination. And additionally, we also have a MagBead calculation sheet available to support your calculation, to help you decide how much beads I want, and of course to see how many hours I need for incubation in order to reach a specific concentration. So for sure, you can do overnight bead incubation. Depending on your experiment.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Weilin, thank you very much for your presentation today. Would you like to provide our audience with any closing remarks before we go?
Yeah, sure. So I just want to add two more final comments. And currently, in European market, we can actually send our AmMag SA Plus platform to your lab or to your company to give you hands-on experience. So what we do is to organize a 2 days virtual workshop online. I'm only talking about EU market. So on day one, so of course, after you get our AmMag apparatus on day one, and you will, let's say, set up this AmMag platform under my or my colleague's instruction. And in most cases, our local sales manager can help on site on day one. But due to COVID-19 restriction, I don't know, the situation is quite different. But let's say currently, I mean, for day one, yeah, so our customers have to do this installation by himself, but of course, under our instruction online. And day second, we can really run an experiment, including purification and bead splitting. So yeah, so basically, and after these 2 days, and the machine can stay in your lab or in your company for 1 or 1.5 weeks for you to gain more hands-on experience and to really experience if AmMag is the right tool for your lab. So, and of course, the shipment fees for sent back is for free. It's covered by GenScript. So so basically we set up this kind of 2-day virtual workshop in order to overcome current COVID pandemic. So we do everything digitally. And another comment I want to add that if you're really curious about our AmMag SA Plus system, magnetic beads, price details, and please contact our local sales and also technical account manager. And I'm pretty sure that they can work out a customized and offer and package based on your needs. So these are the two final comments I want to add. And of course, please also feel free to contact me. You can see my information on the slide which is showing on your screen, weilin.liu at genscript.com. So give me a call or send an email, and I will guide you through. Okay, I really appreciate your time and interest. And also, I want to send my appreciation to the organizer. Thanks a lot.
And Dr. Weilin Liu, thank you so much for your time today and for your important research. And I want to thank LabRoots and our sponsor GenScript for underwriting today's educational webcast. And before we go, I want to thank our audience for joining us today and for their interesting questions. Questions we did not have time for today, and those submitted during the on-demand period will be addressed by our speaker via the contact information you provided at the time of registration. And this webcast will be viewed on demand. LabRoots will provide and alert you via email when it's available for replay. we encourage you to share that email with your colleagues who may have missed today's live event. Until next time, take care and stay healthy. Bye-bye, everyone.